Hello there, this is DJ and welcome to Weekly Game Talkies. This week in gaming, Battlefield 6 continues Season 2 with Nightfall update. Arc Raiders just made some major balance changes, including a nerf to the notorious El Toro shotgun. NVIDIA's DLSS is getting a lot of mixed reaction from the community. Starfield is preparing for what looks like a second launch moment with its PS5 release, and Cyberpunk is getting another upgrade. So today, let's go through everything that's been happening this week in a bit detailed way. Shall we? Let's start with Battlefield 6, because Season 2 has now moved into its second phase, Nightfall, which went live on March 17th. And this update actually brings a bit more than what we initially thought, especially in terms of gameplay variety. The biggest highlight here is the new limited time mode called Night Mode. This mode completely shifts the way Battlefield plays. You're dealing with low visibility, darker environments, and a much heavier emphasis on positioning and awareness. Gunfights are expected to feel slower, more deliberate, and a bit more tense compared to the usual chaos. It's one of those modes where you can't just run around, you actually have to think about movement, angles, and visibility. And for a lot of players, this is probably the most interesting part of the update. Alongside the new limited time mode, we also got a new map called Hagental Base, which leans more into tight indoor combat, making it a good fit for this darker, more tactical style of gameplay. Now in terms of new content, we also have new weapons being added into the sandbox, including things like the CZ-3A1 submachine gun and the VZ-61 sidearm. There's also a new vehicle, a dirt bike, which adds a faster and more agile way to move around the map. On top of that, the update introduces additional RedSec content, new locations, and a bonus path system with free challenges, giving players something to grind during the season. Now on paper, this actually sounds like a solid mid-season update. But when you zoom out and look at the bigger picture, the core issue still remains. A lot of this content, especially night mode, is limited time, which means it doesn't really contribute to the long-term value of the game. So while Nightfall does add some variety, it doesn't really show any meaningful evolution for Battlefield. Instead, it highlights the bigger issue, a lack of substantial long-term content, which is also why player numbers continue to drop. And even after the feedback from Season 1, Season 2 seems to be following the exact same approach. Moving on to Arc Raiders, the game just received patch 1.20.0, and the biggest highlight here is the nerf to the El Toro shotgun. If you have been playing recently, you already know how dominant this weapon was in close range fights, and this update hits it from multiple angles. Pallet damage reduced from 7.5 to 7, fire rate reduced from 43 to 38, dispersion increased from 4.5 to 6, making it less accurate. Reload time increased from 4.3 seconds to 5.7 seconds. On top of that, damage fall off increased from 40% to 50%, so it drops off much faster at range. Even the looping reload timings have been slowed down. So this isn't just a small nerf, it's a meaningful adjustment to damage, consistency, range, and usability. And you can actually feel this change in gameplay. Previously, El Toro could take down a medium shield in just 2 shots, but now it takes at least 3 shots. Light shields will still go down in around 2 shots, so the weapon remains viable, just more balanced. And this change also brings the Volcano shotgun more into the spotlight. Crafting it now actually feels worth it, whereas earlier El Toro was just overshadowing everything. Alongside this, the patch also includes general balance tweaks, bug fixes, and improvements to hit detection and responsiveness. Now this isn't a flashy update, but it's an important one, because in a game like Arc Raiders, where every fight matters, weapon balance directly affects how fair the experience feels. And honestly, this is the kind of adjustment that probably should have happened earlier. Now let's talk about something a bit more controversial, NVIDIA's DLSS 5. On paper, NVIDIA is positioning DLSS 5 as a major step forward in visual fidelity, with more advanced AI-driven enhancements. They have also said that developers will have fine control over intensity, color grading, and masking, so the original look of the game is preserved. But the reaction from the community so far has been pretty mixed, and honestly leaning more towards critical. Across Reddit and Twitter, a lot of players are saying that DLSS is starting to feel less like an optional feature and more like a requirement for modern games to run properly. There's also growing frustration around developers relying on these technologies instead of optimizing games properly at a native level. But for me, the bigger issue is what we are actually seeing in the demos, because it doesn't feel like a natural upgrade. It honestly feels more like an AI image filter layered on top of the game. In some cases, characters actually look completely different compared to how they originally appear in the game. Lighting also feels inconsistent. like the system is adding extra brightness or altering scenes in ways that don't always match the original design. And instead of improving the image, it sometimes feels like it's over-processing it, which ends up making things look worse. Now compare that to DLSS up to version 4 and frame generation, those genuinely felt like technical breakthroughs. But DLSS 5, at least from what we have seen so far, feels closer to a generic AI filter rather than a true next-gen rendering upgrade. Now to be fair, NVIDIA says developers will have full control over how this is implemented, so maybe this improves over time. But right now, based on the demos, it doesn't really feel like a clear upgrade. If anything, in some cases, it feels like a step backwards in visual consistency. Next up, Starfield is launching on PlayStation 5 on April 7, alongside a major update called Free Lanes and a new DLC titled Terran Armada. The Free Lanes update focuses on improving space travel and navigation, making movement feel more seamless and less segmented compared to launch. The goal here is clearly to reduce friction and make exploration feel more fluid. There are also quality of life improvements and system refinements aimed at smoothing out the overall experience. On the content side, the Terran Armada DLC introduces new story-driven missions centered around large-scale space conflicts along with new enemies and gear. So this isn't just a small add-on, it's expanding both the gameplay and narrative side of things. And honestly, what makes this interesting is the timing. Because launching on PS5 alongside a major update like this feels like a second launch moment for Starfield. And if these changes land well, this could be a good opportunity for the game to reach a wider audience and reshape how people look at it. Now, quickly moving on to Cyberpunk, CD Projekt Red has confirmed that Cyberpunk 2077 is getting a PS5 Pro update. Details are still limited, but it's expected to take advantage of the new hardware to deliver better performance and improved visuals. And honestly, at this point, Cyberpunk's journey has been pretty impressive. From a rough launch to where it is now, this just feels like another step in that ongoing redemption story. Before we wrap up, let's talk about two major releases from this week. First is Crimson Desert, which has finally launched after a long wait. Due to the non-hand-holding nature of this game, which tends to throw players straight into the action, critics and players alike have been quite divided. For some, Crimson Desert has been one of the best games in recent years, while for others, it just didn't click. As a result, the game has received a somewhat lukewarm reception in terms of its Steam and Metacritic reviews. Nonetheless, as confirmed by official Crimson Desert Twitter page, the game has already sold over 2 million copies. That said, it is safe to assume that a large portion of those sales likely came from pre-orders. So it will be interesting to see how the game performs over the next week or so. Also, for Intel Arc users, the game currently does not support Intel Arc graphics cards, and affected players are being advised to request a refund if they had pre-ordered the game. The second is Death Stranding 2 on the beach, the PC version. This is the second and presumably the final installment of the main series, according to Hideo Kojima himself. The game was originally released on June 26, 2025 on PlayStation consoles and was a major contender at the Game Awards 2025, earning 7 nominations including Game of the Year, Best Game Direction, Best Narrative, Best Art Direction, Best Score and Music, Best Audio Design, and Best Action or Adventure Game. With the PC release, the game is now reaching a much wider audience, and given Kojima's unique style, this will likely spark a fresh wave of discussion around its gameplay and storytelling. So that's been the week in gaming. Battlefield continues to struggle with content direction, Arc Raiders is making important balance changes, DLSS 5 is raising some serious questions, Starfield is gearing up for what could be a strong second launch, and Cyberpunk continues its steady improvement. But I'm curious, which of these updates actually caught your attention? And are you playing any of the new games that released this week? Or is there any upcoming game or update that you would like me to cover in the next episode? Let me know down in the comments. And if you are enjoying these weekly game updates, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. I'll be covering the biggest gaming news every week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.